Welcome back, my friends, on our video. So for this video, we will be focusing more on the for loop only. So based on our previous video regarding the introduction to loops, this is the first type of loop that we will be discussing, aside to while and of course the list comprehension loop. So without further ado, let's start our for loop tutorial. Okay, for loop. What is for loop? So actually, for loop is used if we need to iterate or print individually per row each value inside a sequence of values. Those sequence of values can be applied to collection types like list, tuples, sets, and of course, the dictionaries. Now, for the syntax of this for loop, for x in sequence, and the double dot, and of course the command that we intended for the x. Take note, my friends, on the indentation before the command. Okay, so this actually means that the command for x is under the for loop, because actually if you don't have your indentation, if the command is on the same line with the for loop, it is not interpreted by the Python as under this for loop. Okay, so don't forget that in Python programming, sequencing and indentation is very much important. Okay, as you can see on our definition of for loops, on our usage of for loops rather, it is actually used to iterate or print individually per row each value inside a sequence of values, which is actually, if you still remember, this is almost the same, or this is exactly what our previous task is intended to do. So meaning to say that that will be our task now. Print all the items inside our logging technical indicators list using the for loop. Okay, so please open your Anaconda, open the Jupyter Notebook, and let's start coding. Okay, so we're now here in our Jupyter Notebook, and you are seeing right now our previous coding regarding the introduction to loops. So here, we actually print the items inside a loops manually using the print function, but now our task is almost the same with this, but we should use actually the for loops for us to be able to minimize the work if the items inside the list is actually hundreds or thousands of items there. Okay, so for the syntax, I hope you still remember, we should actually use for. So as you can see, the for word now is highlighted green, meaning to say it is one of the functions inside our Python environment. So for x, so this is a variable. You can actually use here a, b, c, d, any letters within our alphabet can be used here. So the most common are x, I, j, so that is used by programmers. So for this video, we will be using x. So what is x here? The x here stands for every item inside a list. In our case, our list is actually the logging technical indicators. By the way, my friends, I forgot, we should have our title first. Anyway, so for loops, for loop. And let's what we call this, let's have this as title first. Let's mark down and run. Okay, so I will rewrite our code. So for x, meaning x stands for each items inside our list. So x stands for moving average, x stands for MACD, x stands for Bollinger Bands, which are all a string data type. Okay, so for x in, there must be an in, as far as I hope you remember the syntax. So for x in, then you paste the name of your list, which is in our case logging technical indicators, and enter. Don't forget the indentation for the Python to know that your next commands is under the for loop. Okay, so for X in lagging technical indicators, print X. So what we are trying to say here, we are saying here to our Python that for every item inside a list represented by letter X, by variable X, we must print X. So for the item that is represented here on the X, it should print the value of that specific item. So meaning to say, for moving average inside lagging technical indicators, print moving average. So that will be our first line of output. Then since this is for loop, when we say loop, it is looping, it is continuously, it is reiterating. So since we already printed the moving average, it will go back to the start again. Meaning for X, which is now the MACD, in lagging technical indicators, print X, which is MACD. So the second line of output will be MACD. So we have now moving average as the first line and the MACD, just like this one. Actually, the output will be exactly the same. The only difference is the process of coding, which is here we use the for loop, here we use this basic printing function. So after printing the MACD, it will go back again to the first part of the for loop, which is for X in lagging technical indicators, which is this time, the X now stands for Bollinger Bands. So for Bollinger Bands in lagging technical indicators, print X. Again, what is X? Bollinger Bands. So it will now be printed. So we will now be having three results that of different rows. So separate rows which are moving average, MACD, and Bollinger Bands. So let's start printing this. Let's try to print. I hope we are right. And that's it. So we are right. Moving average, MACD, Bollinger Bands. This is actually the most easiest way on printing an item in a list, especially if we are having so much number of items inside a list. For this print function that we have done on our previous video, this is actually useful if we are having a very few number of items inside a list. Just like this one, we only have 3. But if we are dealing with hundreds or thousands of data inside our list, the for loop is more suitable. Okay, so I hope you learned something from this video, my friends. That is the basic usage of the for loop. Watch out for our next videos for advanced Python programming. Okay, so this is the Engineer Trader again, your partner from learning to earning. And as always, may your trades be great. Bye-bye.